Anyways, but it is possible that there was details about Grice's encounter with Tony Howell that her family wanted to keep out of the public eye. Like, they was amicably, consensually having sex. In 1912, few people dared to even speak on consensual liaisons between white women and black men, aka sex. But that doesn't mean everyone was blind to them. Nah. As early as 1892, the anti-lynching crusader, Ida B. Wells, had denounced what she called the old threadbare lie that Negro men rape white women. Instead, Wells said it was often white women who were filled with longing for young black men, and in many cases they claimed to have been raped only after being discovered in bed with their black lovers. There are many white women in the South, Wells wrote, who would marry colored men if such an act would not place them at once beyond the pale of society and within the clutches of law, which it was once upon a time illegal to motherfreaking marry outside of your race. Now, while I got that with me, I got to take this time out. I got to read something from this book because many people don't believe me when I tell them that law really existed. There's a biracial woman who sued to win her freedom. Now, I got to read this to you. Okay. Elizabeth Key. This is in my motherfreaking Stand from the Beginning, Racist Ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi book. This goes along with what I was saying about how it was illegal for races to mess with each other. Elizabeth Key was the daughter of an unnamed African woman and Newport News legislator Thomas Key. Before his death, Thomas had arranged for his biracial daughter to be freed at 15. Her subsequent masters, however, kept her enslaved. At some point, she adopted Christianity, which with Christianity, you can't enslave Christians. So they legally could sue for freedom because they're like, my daddy is white. He's a Christian. I'm a Christian. You can't enslave a white Christian, right? So she birthed a baby whose father was William Greenstead, an English indentured servant and amateur lawyer on Matram's plantation. Now, because he has all his information out there, obviously this is a white man because, I mean, her mother is called Unnamed African Woman. That's crazy. So it's obvious that the daughter didn't marry a black man. But anyways, she birthed a baby whose father was William Greenstead. He's an English indentured servant and amateur lawyer on Matram's plantation. Upon Matram's death in 1655, Key and Greenstead successfully sued the estate for her and her child's freedom. They sued for her and her child's freedom. Virginia planters followed the Key case almost as closely as they followed the English Civil War. Listen. They realized that the English common laws regarding not enslaving Christians and stipulating that father's status determines the child's status. This is when who your mama is became more important than who your daddy is. They realized that because the English common law regarding not enslaving Christians and stipulating that the father's status determines the child's status, both superseded curse theory, climate theory, beast theory. Curse theory is that black people were born, we're black because we're cursed with the whole, who is his sons? The guy on the boat, Noah's Ark, his sons, right? The theory was that black people are cursed because he was cursed for looking upon his daddy's nakedness. So they was like, well, he's black. He was cursed for looking upon his daddy's nakedness. Therefore, black people are cursed. That's why they're black. No. Anyways, The climate theory is that people from extreme climates, whether you come from extreme heat or extreme cold, you're incapable of governing yourself. You're barbaric. You need to be controlled. You need to be governed. And then the beast theory. I mean, come on. The evangelical theory and every other racist theory substantiating black and biracial enslavement. Elizabeth Key had ravaged the ties that planters had unofficially used to bind slavery. She motherfucking found a loophole to their thing. She's like, my daddy is white. My daddy's Christian. I adopted Christianity faith. You can't enslave me because I'm a Christian and I'm white because of my daddy. So, for Virginia planters, the timing of the Key case could not have been worse. By the 1660s, labor demands had grown. Virginia had uprooted more indigenous communities to expand their farmland. So that means we need black people. We barely even got indigenous people. We done massacred a lot of them. And the ones that we haven't massacred, we done pushed to this tiny piece of land that we're calling now reservations. There's not enough Native Americans to motherfucking do the work, the labor that we need. So we need black people. So therefore, we can't have this loophole of Christianity and white daddy freeing our black people. Landowners were looking increasingly to African laborers to do the work since their lower death rates. Mind you, slaves were living past 100 years old, man. Black people who were enslaved were living past 100 years old. Their lower death rates made them more valuable and more permanent than temporary indentures, which is poor white people who they took on as indentured servants, or Native Mexicans, non-Native Mexicans, Native Americans. You see what I'm saying? At the same time, the bloody English Civil War that had driven so many England to America had come to a close, and new social and economic opportunities in England slowed the flow of voluntary indentured migrants. The white servants still arriving partnered with the enslaved Africans in escapes and rebellions, possibly bonding on similar stories of apprehension, being lured onto ships of the western coast of Africa or Europe. So for those who don't know what that means, is that white servants were right along with enslaved black people getting shipped across. So I don't know how you poor white people think y'all any different when your ancestors was treated equivalent to us. In fact, Slavic white people, which was Western motherfucking Europeans, y'all were motherfucking enslaved before us. And then they was like, we done found these black people. So then that's why they left y'all alone. But y'all went through the same stuff we did. But that's what it said. The oppressed becomes the oppressors. But we're going to continue going. Says, planters responded to labor demands and laborers' unity by purchasing more African people and luring whiteness away from blackness. Meaning they didn't want y'all mixing. We don't want black and white people mixing, because then we're going to have a bunch of black people, a bunch of slaves, niggas that's putting money in our pockets, gonna be disappearing. They're gonna be suing for their freedom. We don't want that. So in the first official recognition of slavery in Virginia, legislators stipulated in 1660, and even stricter terms in 61, that any white servant running away in company with any Negroes shall serve for the time of the said Negro's absence, even if it meant life. So that means, yes, white people, poor white people, y'all were being brought over here. Indentured service was transported right along with enslaved Africans, so you couldn't really tell the difference. Y'all all were enslaved, you know. Y'all developed this rapport, this camaraderie, and now you're like, well, let's run away to our freedom, black man. Okay, white man or white woman, you know what I'm saying? But here they come with the Beacons rebellion tactic, the divide and conquer. Any white man that is found, any white servant found running away in the company of a Negro, of any black person, white man, you will serve the time of that Negro's absence, even if it means life. So you will be an indentured servant, even if that means life. If we catch you running away with black folks, which just puts fear to white people's head. I'm not helping no black people. Let me look at you as the enemy. It saves me. Okay. Then in 1662, Virginia lawmen plugged one of Key's freedom loopholes to resolve doubts that have arisen whether children got by an Englishman upon a Negro woman should be slave or free. This is when the loophole came, because when she found that she can get out of it because she got a white daddy and she adopted Christian faith, they can't enslave Christians. The people in power was like, oh, no, we got to change this legislation. So then that's when they proclaimed that all children born in this country derive their status from the condition of their mother. This is when it is said, it don't matter who your daddy is. Your daddy could be native. Your daddy could be white. Your daddy could be Mexican. Your daddy could be your daddy could be a mother freaking dog. Okay? Your mama is a black woman. You're a slave. They proclaim that all children born in this country derive their status not from the daddy, but from the condition of the mama. So if your mama is a slave, guess what, child? You are a slave. Trashing English law, they dusted off the Roman principle of partus sequitur ventrum, which held that among tame and domestic animals, the brood belongs to the owner of the dam or mother. So that means the child of this animal belongs to the owner of its mother. And they applied the same logic to the children, the offspring of black women. So that means that if your daddy is white and your daddy is a Christian man, but your mama is a mother freaking black slave, then you maintain the same status as your mama. You are black and you are a slave. In this way, I got to keep reading. I just got to keep reading. I know I'm supposed to be reading this book, but I got to keep reading. It says, with this law in place, white enslavers could now reap financial reward from relations upon a Negro woman. They can have sex with Negro women as much as they want and make babies. And now they don't have to worry about freeing up the labor, economy. Those offspring will still contribute to the economy because they will be slaves because they pick up the same status as their mama, which is slave. But they wanted to prevent the limited number of white women from engaging in similar interracial relationships. Meaning, we only want white men sleeping with everyone. White men can sleep with black men, black women, native women, Mexican men, white women? Nah, bro. They wanted to prevent the limited number of white women from engaging in similar interracial relationships as their biracial babies would become free. So in 1664, Maryland legislators declared it is a disgrace to our nation when English women intermarry with Negro slaves. By the end of that century, Maryland and Virginia legislators. Now look at this. Virginia is down south. Maryland is what? Northeast. Maryland and Virginia legislators had enacted severe penalties for white women in relationships with non-white men, not just black, non-white men. In this way, heterosexual white men freed themselves through racist laws to engage in sexual relations with all women. Not even just women, with everybody, because they could sleep with their property. They could sleep with anybody. And then their racist literature codified their sexual privileges. The Isle of Pines, a bizarre short story published in 1668 by former English parliamentarian Henry Neville, gave readers one such ominous account. The tale purposely begins in 1589, the year the first edition of Richard, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Hakluyt's principal navigations appear. Surviving a shipwreck in the Indian Ocean, George Pines finds himself alone on an uninhabited island with an English 14-year-old, a Welsh maidservant, another maidservant whose whiteness is clear and ethnicity is not, and one Negro female slave. For Pine's idleness and fullness of everything begot in me a desire of enjoying the women. Whoa. He found an English 14-year-old, then a maidservant, another maidservant whose whiteness is clear, ethnicity is not, and a Negro female slave. And it made him enjoy this desire of women. My goodness. So you out here having sex with children. All right. Then it says he persuades the two maids to lie with him. The maidservant, one whose ethnicity is not motherfucker. It's obvious she's white, but her ethnicity is not sure. He persuades the two maids to lie with him and then reports that the English 14-year-old was content also to do as we did. I don't think a 14-year-old is content to do what you did. You just wanted to have sex with that 14-year-old. This is the motherfreaking sexual immorality that got Sodom and Gomorrah motherfreaking destroyed. The Negro woman, seeing what we did, longed also for her share. Good Lord. One night, the uniquely sexually aggressive black woman makes her move in the darkness while Pine sleep. This is going to open us up to another thing, but let me tell you, black women don't be out here wanting white men like that, okay? This hypersexualizing us is rooted in slavery. We see this. This is 1600s. This nigga's talking about some 14-year-old child wanted a piece of him, and this black woman wanted a piece of him. But then the black woman couldn't even just want a piece like the rest of them. Now this black woman, motherfreaking, aggressively makes her move in the darkness while the nigga sleeps. So she raped the white man? Like, come on. But I wanted to say all that to say this. Heterosexual white men freed themselves through racist laws so they can engage in sexual relationships with all. They literally made it illegal for white women to be in relationships with non-white men. It's illegal. But it's legal for white men to sleep with every and anybody. And then if you get that woman pregnant, it's okay. Because that child is going to become a slave anyways. Or an indentured servant. It's right here. Right here. Page 40 and 41. And stamped from the beginning, the definitive history of racist ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi.